Hi everyone, and welcome to the first part of Wayfinding in Poetry. I'm grateful to share poetry teachings with you today, thanks to Create to Learn, Taking It Global, and ImagineNative. My name is Dana Marlatt. I'm a painted feather woodland Métis on my father's side and German on my mother's. My relationship with poetry began at a young age when my dad would write us poems for our birthday. He still does, and now we write them back for him or any celebration that we have as a family. In this video series, we'll go through the different tools, styles, and inspirations to help you connect with your inner poet. I know poetry has helped me to learn how to express myself, share appreciation, and advocate for human moments or anything that might be on my mind. In this first video, we'll start with the basics and go over the different tools that help connect thoughts from words and into poems. To start for poetry tools is metaphor. This is when we describe one thing as if it's another. I'm going to read to you an example of a poem I wrote that uses metaphor for our own self-esteem and gifts. It's called Embrace Your Power and was inspired by a Danish artist named Danica Jim. She holds up a finger and says, "Embrace your power. Years ago your gifts were planted. You're ready now to bloom and flower. Show the world the beauty that is unique to you, and yet remember to follow your intuition, as it will keep you true." Now is a great time to pause and practice a few declarative metaphors yourself. You can use themes such as nature, loved ones, or favorite things. Next is simile, which uses like or as to compare. I'll share a poem written for my little sister on her birthday. See if you can try and listen for the use of those words. Inner child to inner child, I love you. Smiling on us with hindsight views. You embody life like that freckle in your eye. Living your own path, not justifying why. Unique and standing out from a crowd. Witty and quick, have us laughing out loud. More so your fierce ability to be a light. You are a gem, as beautiful as your might. Now for us to pause and practice, let's pick a being, place, or thing and try and describe it using like or as. It can be helpful to use your senses to add context for what it looks like, feels like, or sounds like. Next, we will look at how line breaks are used to guide the reader on pace to read. For an example, I'll read an excerpt from a poem written called What They Would Have Learned. See if you notice how the shorter lines add meaning and impact when you listen and read along. We are bold, we are brave, let us honor, let us share our understanding, our worldviews, our ways of knowing to blend nations, concepts, innovate. Our two-eyed seeing, our natural respect for the distinctions we each carry, our comfort that other nations may dance opposite ways to give thanks, and again, we respect. We will respect all life. We are responsible for it and one another. To practice line breaks, we can start to write short statements and see how they fit together. Sometimes what I do is I'll write a couple, 5 to 6 statements of whatever I'm feeling passionate about that day, whether it's the way a flower looks or it's a show I'm watching, and then I just rearrange it completely and I put whatever I had the bottom ones at the top or in the middle, and I just try and figure out different ways that they can flow together or tell a different message. Another way to practice writing line breaks is to write out your thoughts completely in a flow of state, then find points that you want to pause or for the audience to soak in the words, and then create a break there. Another tool for poetry, and especially lyrical poems, is rhythm. It's when a pattern of writing creates movement. If you've ever watched spoken word, then you've likely experienced how they carry a flow to deliver the poem. For those of you that like rap, it's another great example of how rhythm can deliver a more impactful message or carry intrigue. Essentially, you want a beat to be felt as it is read or heard by the audience. For an example, I'll read you a poem called Daughters. I try and perform it as if there's a melody, which is nurturing, steady, and strong. This one's for the daughters, the soon-to-be leaders, dreamers, and authors. Watch the world around you with those shining eyes. Our people, animal, earth, and sky. The way of the world will pull you like a river. Release to the current. Listen when your gut makes you shiver. The world is a beautiful place because you belong, at every age whole, worthy, and strong. For us to practice this tool, we can leverage syllables or a length of line to create a flow, beat, or repetition. By emphasizing certain words or aspects of the poem, the meaning can be stressed or shared in a more impactful way. You can pause now and practice this by writing a few statements and then playing around with where you enunciate or add emphasis. You can also practice on existing works or when you read to yourself by playing with how you say it in your head or out loud. I find it helpful to pick a theme of a poem, a statement that summarizes it, and then use it as my template to shape the other lines around for consistency of the beat. For example, if I use 5 words and I want to try and have like a shorter beat poem, I'll try and keep that up with my other lines. The next tool we are going to learn about is personification. This is when things or objects are described with a living being lens, meaning that they are spoken about as if human too. For an example of this, I'll read to you an excerpt from a poem written called Joy. Listen for how the trees and wind are described with personification. Trust blooms love, and when we pause to notice, that's when we feel joy. When we allow ourselves to spend the extra moment, to pause a minute more and believe, to sense the warmth that's joy. Like watching the birch tree dancing with its friend the wind, bending and yet trusting that its roots will hold them steady no matter how strong the gust. To witness the elements play is joy. To know after a long winter period that the spring will always come again. Nature teaches us how to trust, to follow the seasons so that we may appreciate and know to pause. To feel grateful for the sprouts in the soil is joy. To write with personification, we can do exercises like assigning a human trait or behavior to something. You can try prompts like, the tree is, the water is, the wind is. You can relate it to a sense like smell, sight, touch, taste, or sound, or you can describe an activity or characteristic of. The final tool is imagery. Imagery acts as orally visualizing for the reader. You're trying to create a picture in their head using the words of a poem. Trying to activate different senses can help the audience connect with the message, which you may have noticed is a common theme with most of the tools. As an example, I'll read to you Muse. See if you can imagine the scenario being described. Consider if any of the lines feel relatable or spark that imagery within you. Another spark idea, a poem to write. Yet why is it that they come mainly at night? Tomorrow is an early and important day. What more possibly could this brain have to say? At this point, it's going in circles and loops. Begging to be tired, feel my eyes start to droop. Please turn off and let me sleep now. Put the pencil down, no more furrowing your brow. The words can wait, they live in your head. Now, for your own sake, off to bed. To pause and practice for imagery, think of a fond memory or moment. Try and describe it in 1 to 2 sentences. Now add in the senses or more descriptive words to carry your message. For example, if you wanted to describe a tree, you could say that it's tall and broad for the original line. Then start to add in more characteristics or attributes like its rough bark, heavy branches, abundant foliage, or whatever helps the reader to have a stronger reference point in their own mind. Thank you so much for taking the time to learn and create with me today. In this video, we went over a few of the poetry tools that can help create outlets to express yourself. In summary, we learned about metaphors, describing one thing as if another, simile, using like or as to compare, line breaks, which guides the reader on pace to read, rhythm, the pattern of writing that creates movement, personification, describing with a living being lens, and imagery, which is orally visualizing for the reader. In the next of Wayfinding in Poetry, we'll review a few of the different writing styles that you can create a poem with. For more content, you can follow @Create to Learn on Instagram and check #Create to Learn.